Hello and welcome back to Murder Analysed, my partners in crime. Welcome back. Today we are still on now to case 9 of our missing persons Christmas appeal here on Murder Analysed. Now today's case, case 9, is the very sad case, really sad case of Martin Allen, who was a 15-year-old boy who disappeared, probably abducted, right, without a doubt, from London Underground in 1979. Now, I've done many cases on these sort of crimes before, and I can't say the word anymore of the sort of group of people that we're looking for. I call them PDFs, right? And the people that I will be mentioning in this case are linked to a group of people that I've talked about before called the Dirty Dozen and the Elm Guest House in London. So you can imagine what this case is going to be about. But this is such a sad case because this boy has just vanished without a trace. Another one. It's I hate doing these cases, right? I do so many of them, but when we come across so many missing people, children or kids are always going to be part of that mix. And this is definitely an abduction and murder if this group of people and gangs I'm going to talk about have had anything to do with it. So, if you're ready, we'll continue. So Martin Allen, now he disappeared on November the 5th, 1979, Guy Fawkes night, right? November the 5th. We have a few disappearances around this time. Probably it's time of year because it's dark and everything else. In England it's dark by 4 o'clock, 4:30, and it's much easier, I think, especially in them days, because we didn't have the CCTVs, we didn't have anything like that, mobile phones or anything where you could contact someone if you needed some help, or if we could look back and find some factual evidence on this, on these sort of crimes from around this time. That's one of the reasons why these sort of groups or gangs of people got away with as many crimes as they did, I think. But I'm not saying that that doesn't still happen. I think mainly now these sort of things are more underground, right? That's why we don't hear so much about them now. The odd occasion, but mainly it's an underground thing now. So London, right? What can we say about London? London is a very dangerous place. It always has been a dangerous place for children. King's Cross and all these other train stations linked to that have a reputation, and especially around this time when lots and lots of kids went missing. Lots and lots of people went missing, not just children, but people went missing. London is full of people. It's a big place. Well, it's a tiny place with a lot of people in that one place. And, I was born in London, so I can say this. It's like a cesspit, right, to tell you the truth, when we look at these sort of crimes. But this is where this case came from. So the last confirmed sighting of him, of Martin, was by a school friend at approximately 3:50 p.m. at King's Cross, St Pancras Tube Station, walking towards the Piccadilly line platform on his way home from school. Now, a lot of kids that live in London and surrounding areas use the underground to get them to and from school. Now, his intended route that he planned to go home briefly and get some money and then travel to his older brother's home. So his route had changed a little bit. He didn't, he was going to go there, then he was going to go here. So the key witness account after the television appeal, a witness came forward claiming that he'd seen the boy matching Martin's description with an adult man in Gloucester Road tube station on the Piccadilly line around 4:15. So not long, really, from 3:50 when his school friend had seen him. This happened quite quickly. So I think there was suspicious circumstances around this sighting because a witness reported that the boy appeared distressed and nervous, and the man had his arm around the boy's shoulder and prodding him in the back and telling him, don't try to run, as they exited the train at Earls Court Station. Now, So we have a witness that's seen this, right? It's so sad, really, because the first question on our mind when you have a 15-year-old lad like this, that would have been used to have took the train. Why didn't he run? So what was a man prodding into his back? Or what did Martin think was being prodded into his back? It was a weapon of some sort, or he thought it was a weapon of some sort. I think Martin knew from the first encounter with this man that this situation wasn't good and wasn't going to end well. I think he knew enough, even in them days, to understand that. So the description of the man, he was described as white, in his 30s, about 6 feet tall, with distinctive blonde hair and a prominent moustache, wearing a mid-blue denim jacket and trousers, and a composite drawing was widely circulated at the time, but he was never identified. So I'll be putting that up as well, and you can have a look through that. But we are talking about 1979, and we are talking about a group of people that worked as a gang, right, a PDF gang within this area and around train stations, and how they used to work, and I think they probably still do today when they're looking for vulnerable people or people to take, is you would have spotters, right? And the spotters would watch people coming off the train, and that was either to rob them or whatever. But this gang was specifically after kids, right? That's what they were after. Runaways, vulnerable kids, people that they could take advantage of. So there may have been more than him at this point. So yes, he may have freshened that Martin, and he may have had a weapon of sorts, but the whole intention was to abduct this child for other things, right? And we've had many cases like this already, and not one of these cases have turned out well for the victim. Some bodies have still never been found, and Martin's is one of them that can be now added to the list. So even in 1979, right, because police sort of knew what was going on, they did, really. There was a massive police launched this search, extensive investigation into this case, because, you know, you can't have 15-year-olds being taken from trains like that and then just disappeared, especially in the city of London. It's not good, it's not safe, and it puts other people off coming to London. And I'm telling you now, when you hear that London's safe and the rest, London is not safe for child or adult, right? You should be careful. You should be careful of your phone. You should be careful of everything. You should be careful of your children. And travelling alone in London at any point is never ever been safe, and it's even worse, I think, today. So they questioned over 50,000 people, conducted massive house-to-house search in Earl's Court area. Martin's school possessions that he had, including a distinctive yellow school bag, was also never found. So they found nothing, absolutely nothing of this child. Nothing. So the PDF ring allegations in this case was linked to an unproven allegation regarding a high-profile PDF ring operating in Elm Guest House in the early 70s and 80s, which alleged involvement of prominent established figures. Right? So listen, we're talking like Jimmy Savile era here, right? Prominent era here. And the people that was also linked to him. The Dirty Dozen was not high profile in themselves, but they did gather kids for these sort of people, right? If they didn't use them themselves, they were passed to them. And we will go into more detail about that in a little while. So the links between Martin Allen's disappearance and the alleged Elm Guest House, this PDF ring, seemed to, from a later police investigation of witnesses claimed, but specific claims were ultimately discredited, and often extensive inquiries for key information of these allegations. Listen, you're talking about, when we talk about these sort of crimes, untouchables, right? Jimmy Savile was the worst one of all, wasn't he? Untouched, protected, really, if you'd like to say it that way. So we're talking about lots of different people here from lots of different parts of the country that would come to this guest house and other places, and for fun, what they would call fun. And so they needed kids. They needed them, and it's terrible, really, because in that area and around this time, so much was going on when we talk about these sort of gangs going around. And it was because it was so easy in them days to do this sort of crime and get away with it. When I look at this case, the person that I would say even could be linked to this case is Cook, Sidney Cook. Now, he is still alive, I think. I think he's in Monster Mansion, Wakefield Prison. I think that's where he is. I'll find out. Evil man, and he is part of what they call the Dirty Dozen gang. A lot of them have been murdered or have died since they were all arrested for certain crimes, and I've done a lot of their crimes on this channel, and they are, without doubt, terrible crimes, and explicit, actually, I think, how I talk about these cases, because it needs to be said. But he, to me, would be linked to this, I would say, in some one form or another, right? Or someone he knows would be linked to this crime in one form or another. But for this poor boy, it's not a good outcome here. And I can understand how nothing has ever been found of him, because they don't like to leave evidence. But he would be buried somewhere. It's just unfortunate that no one's ever found him yet. So in 2014, there was this Metropolitan Police investigation into historical cases of this nature, and the allegations part of this are Operation Firebank and Operation Midlands, right, also linked this guest house to this sort of, criminal behaviour. A man known as Nick, later identified as Carl Beach, was the primary source of the claim of linking Martin Allen to the alleged ring, and claiming that he had witnessed the murder of 3 boys. Carl Beach's allegations were proven to be false, and he was convicted of perverting the course of justice and fraud, and received 18 years in prison sentence for that. Inquiries like Operation Alabaster and the ICSA found insignificant or insufficient reliable evidence of support claims of this coordinated ring involving prominent figures at this Elm Guest House. Now, they're only talking about Elm Guest House here, right? But we know by the cases what we've done, and we know or I certainly know by the cases that I've done, the links to these different gangs, and a lot of these gangs, or 1 or 2 of these gangs, did frequent this guest house, this Elm's Guest House, right? Not all of them, but some of them. But then that wasn't really their class, right? If you want to put it in a class thing, these were lower class, right, people, and the ones that would go, I suppose, to Elm's, and allegedly go there, were more higher class, right, people. So, there is links that certain groups or certain people from certain groups of these sort of gangs did frequent this place, but not as much as, because really their class range, right? I'm going to say it like that. They weren't rich enough, weren't powerful enough to be involved in that, right? They were just the collectors, if you'd like to say. That's what they were. They were PDFs themselves, absolutely disgusting people, but different class, if you want to say, to the ones we're talking about here. That's all I can say it, really, because it's difficult to say, right? Because it's all allegations here, Someone got 18 years for saying what he knew. or saying what he said he knew, even though there was insufficient evidence and everything else, and they proved, or they said that they proved that this Carl Beach was untruthful in what he said, and he got 18 years for it. I'll leave you to make your own mind up on that one. Anyway, Metropolitan Police Commander stated that no credible victims had come forward alleging abuse specifically at this Elm Guest House, and no prominent abuser had been identified there. The initial police raid in 1982 led to conviction of the running a brothel, but only found evidence against one child at that time, not others. Right, so they did find evidence in 1982 of one child, right? So one child should be enough, but they were running a brothel from there. But there was evidence of one child. Okay, right, so Martin's brother has maintained the suspicion of this establishment's involvement in the disappearance due to the alleged police reluctance to investigate certain leads. Now, we are talking about 1979, right? And I can understand it, how he feels. It's bloody frustrating, right? To try and gather evidence around these sort of people. Because a lot of the times you can't find the bodies. A lot of the times they've only been caught because, and they don't give each other up, right? So, yeah, you have some of them, but these groups can be massive. They're massive. And as I said, these ones that I'm talking about, the dirty dozen, are the lower level ones. The higher up you go, no one's giving anyone up, are they? Very difficult. So, Sidney Cook, the leader of the notorious PDF gang, was not definitively linked to the guest house. No, but people in his gang were, right? And as I said, Sidney Cook is someone that if any kid, right, any kid would never be safe around him. I'm sure he's still alive. Don't know how. I know he was attacked a few times in prison, but I mean, he's like 70 odd now. God, I mean, this man, if you look back on some of the cases that I've done about this group, these people, right, no kid is safe with him. So I would have said yes, he would have had some links, maybe not that they'd know about, but he was definitely linked to members or people that did frequent that, because I know his own gang members did, and that's brought up. I've had this guest house brought up in so many different of the cases that I've done, which are very similar to this one. And so, yeah, listen, this man was everywhere, right? If there was something happening in that sort of a thing, this man was there. Now, this man was part of it, but he was usually the one, or the disposer, shall we say, gets rid of the bodies, right? That was his job. Very good at it, because most of the bodies, I think, or all the bodies that this man has disposed of has never been found. Never been found. So I think when during the major operation, and that was they investigated Cook's gang, and this was known as Operation Orchard. Reports suggest that gang member Lenny Smith, I think he's dead now, or he should be, he was a rent boy in the West End, he was part of this gang, had visited this Elm's Guest House, right? So whether he visited there as a rent boy, or whether he visited there in his other capacity, right, as a PDF, is unknown. But it is known then, and there is now a clear link between the Sidney Cook Dirty Dozen gang and this guest house. And if this is the area that they worked in, from taking kids and stuff from train stations, especially King's Cross. It's well known for it, and it was in them days. Scary place with scary people, really, at that time. Media speculation, let's talk about that. So the proximity and the location, the nature of the activities led to significant media speculation and calls for victims' families and retired detectives for police to re-examine the potential connection during later investigations to Operation Midland. So people were calling for this investigation to become wider, right? And look, because listen, I've said before, trafficking of these kids, you know, we say call it county lines now, it's always gone on. It's not a new phenomenon, this, right? We've had it here for bloody years. We're talking about 1970s. You know, we've had that for years. We've had these gangs operating, moving kids around and stuff for years. For years. So it's not new. So when these people say it doesn't happen here, it's not happening here, there's grooming, this, and that. No, it has. It is. And it has been happening for absolute years. So, let's look at this case in full. We've got a 15-year-old lad that's coming home from school by train, right? Last seen in Earl's Court Underground with a man holding him, pushing him. He was in a distressed state, looking like there was something in his back. No one intervened. No one said anything. Just let it carry on. The boy didn't scream out. The boy didn't try and run or anything because he was in fear for his life. And then all his school stuff, his yellow bag and everything has never been found. There has been no trace of that boy from the day he went missing. So then we've had all these little investigations and stuff into these different rings of people, and still nothing. So in summary, there were suspicions and unverified intelligence mentions. Police investigations had never found concrete, reliable evidence linking Sidney Cook or his gang members directly to this crime or to any of the crimes at Elm Street Guest House. So police files on Martin's police files. Let's go to this, right? Because Martin's family was informed in 2009 that the original investigation files had been destroyed in a flood at the police station. This case is officially a cold case, but remains open, with Martin's family long believing he was abducted and murdered, and his fate is unknown. It's another sad one, isn't it? And I know, right? And the next one coming up is quite sad as well. The fate of this boy, right? I don't even want to say it because you've only got to look at the other cases that I've done on cases like Martin. But when we look at Sidney Cook and the Dirty Dozen gang, this boy would not have had a chance, right? If it had been a single perpetrator, the one that was taken him off the train, we would have found some evidence and his body by now. So it would have had to have been an organised, and they were organised, these people, very organised, really, very organised in their criminal endeavours to make sure that they left no trace at all. And that is the real sadness in this case, because this case is an old, cold case that has never been solved. And I think if Sidney Cook had anything to do with it, because this man would never speak, he would never ever speak, you will probably never find this boy's body. But just in case someone out there has some remorse, has some loyalties to people that they've now changed because they change, and you may know at least where this boy is buried, right? And you can find, something in your heart to, some moral compass to come forward, or do it anonymously. And as usual, I will leave all the links below on this case. That is the only way now, I think, that Martin Allen's body will be found, is if someone talks. But these people, if he didn't end up going to the guest house, he would have been removed from there quite quickly. He could have been anywhere, because this gang operated all over the country. All over the country. So this body could be anywhere. So, this is such a sad case, but it's an important case, right? Because this boy and their family are still waiting for any news. All they want now is a body. That's all they want. So if you can help, please help. remember, if you know something, say something. You know, make someone's Christmas this year. Please do something for this poor kid that's laying there, really, waiting to be found. So thank you for watching, and the next case coming up is Christine Markham. Now this is case 10, and Christine Markham was born around May the 20th, 1964, and she disappeared on the 21st of May, 1973, a day after her 9th birthday, while on her way into school in Scunthorpe, England. And her case remains clearly unsolved, and she is missing and has been missing, and it is widely again believed that she has been an abduction and was murdered by, really, with the notorious serial killer as the suspect here. So until tomorrow, get ready for that one. See you later. Bye for now.